Welcome into another episode of Cheat Code Weekly, where we discuss video game collecting and investing. I, of course, Greg, joined once again here by Henry, and today we have another special guest with us. Just a second for that. So in our last episode there, we were talking about the high-end graded game market, recent heritage signature auction, all that stuff that was taking place, volatility as the high market falling. But at the end of the day, that's not where most people are going to participate in. What we want to talk about today is more of the lower end market, the place where I personally participate in, a place where probably most of you watching are actually buying, selling, transacting within the graded game, within the sealed game sphere. Say you're anywhere from $100 up to, I was going to say 5,000, but I would even kind of cap it at 2,000. Your $100 to $2,000 range there, the lower end of the market. And the kind of data that myself and Henry can't answer, how many people are in this market? Is the market growing? How many unique buyers? We're just guessing, right? We don't have actual data to answer any of this stuff. So it's all just anecdotes and whatever we really want to say or believe. Which is why, for today, we have with us Nathan, HG, Monty in the Discord, and a lot of you guys, if you're in this hobby or you have been in this hobby, you probably know him as RainierConsignment on eBay, who for the past couple of years has grown to be one of the largest sellers of graded games on eBay that exists. I guess one of the largest sellers of graded games, period. And man, dude, you're rocking the Zelda jacket here. I got the poster on my wall. Oh baby. You're like completely washed out here.
Show the back, show the back, show the back, show the back.
Yeah, there it is.
All right. I can sort of see it. Yeah.
So there it is.
Might be better. Let me see if it catches without the.
Oh, yo, so you get a strip show.
Yeah,
too.
we're already getting clothes off. Like, oh my
gosh.
But
yeah, that is freaking sick, man.
Yeah,
makes me
jealous. I
jealous.
probably shouldn't be wearing this that much, to be honest. It's kind of a
makes me jealous.
Hey, jackets are made to be worn, man. Don't forget that.
Yeah, you're a true clothing guy.
True.
But why we wanted to bring you on is because you are actually on eBay. You are selling thousands of dollars, thousands of games worth almost $1 million as far as I understand now. So you can give us an actual educated opinion on what kind of liquidity exists. What are you seeing through selling these thousands of graded games? What you can give a much more accurate not scientific, mathematical, you know the word I mean, an actual analysis of what you see with the graded video game hobby as a growing, shrinking, all that kind of stuff. So huge thanks to you coming on, man. And to just start, you can talk about how long have you been collecting now? Because I know obviously you're wearing that jacket, you have Pokemon Gold and Silver behind you. You do all of your own collecting as well. I'm well aware of that. And then how did that transform to you becoming a Rainier Consignment on eBay and genuinely, yeah, one of the biggest graded game sellers?
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on and being able to chat about this. Hopefully the information that I give does give some insight onto the hobby and that it is steadily growing. You know, it might not be super quick that everybody's hoping for, but it is growing at a good pace, which I think is good considering how things started, right? Like the correction of everything early on and stuff like that. So
that's when you first got in, right? Like 2021, 2022?
Yeah, so pretty much started end of 2021. So like December of 2021 going into 2022. And mainly it was a lot of like raw games where people were still paying a lot of money for raw stuff to grade and then, you know, resell. So like it then transformed to, you know, later on to more graded games as time went on. But as for collecting, I started when I was 15, so like a sophomore in high school. So I'm 32 this year, so almost, you know, over 17 years at this point.
Yeah, you're that's about as many years as I have. We're very close in that range.
I mainly started with garage sales, like everything else. I was just going with a neighbor, pick up everything. Everything was also affordable and it was abundant. Like you could find anything at garage sales, video game wise. And then you reach like 2015, 2016 when everybody's doing content on YouTube and Gary V's running around about mugs, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like everybody got into it and then the supply started to dwindle. And it, like, for me, it wasn't necessarily reselling as much. Like I just bought to buy and then I would use stuff to buy more from my collection that I didn't want, right? Because I'd find a lot of stuff at garage sales that I just personally had no attachment to, right? So I would just sell that and then buy something that I wanted, or I'd find something
Everyone
at
was
garage sales
basically
like that.
able to collect for free back then. That is just a thing. If you
Basically,
were reselling it all, you could just keep churning infinitely with very, very, very little money.
yeah. And I mean, even in 2014, I took my like the red, blue, gold, silver, crystal, and yellow that I had growing up, and I like bundled them on eBay, and I threw it up at for and this was in 2014, threw it up for like $400, and somebody bought it, like the whole lot. That was insanely high, like at that
Like, those are
time.
carts only or CIB?
No, this was CIB. So that was like really
Oh,
high because
okay.
CIBs for
Mm,
gold, red, everything was like $50, I think, maybe even less, depending on condition.
okay.
Like it wasn't high. Like, so $400 was like insane. A
No,
lot of
I
money just for
think
the
I
whole
think I bought
bundle.
like a sealed blue around that time for $300. Like that is
Yeah.
like Pokemon wasn't as valuable, not even close.
No, yeah. And I mean, even in 2015, I bought a Koro Koro Mew from some dude in Malaysia for $75, and I graded it with PSA and it got a 10, and then I sold it for $430, which then 2021 is now worth like 3 grand, right? Probably even it might be higher now. But like at that time, things were still new. There was definitely money flowing in, I would say, like in terms of accessibility, but it wasn't like what 2021 would end up being. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
and COVID, like everything from raw, sealed, loose to graded became exponentially even more overpriced.
So by the end of
Um,
2021, prices were already coming down, and you just thought to yourself, like, "Oh man, I should enter into this space while everyone's leaving." Like, how did
I
that?
it wasn't necessarily that I saw everybody leaving in 2021. I think the what happened was when 2023 is when it really happened. Like more people started leaving towards the end of 2022 and 2023. You saw some more people selling off, or people just took a back seat and just decided to wait out, the next year and a half and see what happened, right? And you would see them start to dwindly come back in like 2024, like kind of
But
dwindling and
how did
everything.
you like why? Wow, why? How you? Why? How did you get
So
into this? How did this
for
sound like a good
me,
idea to you? Is kind of what
for
I'm.
me, it was like I was doing like buy and resell with my collecting and everything like that. And I was just getting tired of going to thrift stores and finding nothing but the same Guitar Hero game and Wii Fit sitting on the shelf all the time. And everything was always picked. Being in the kind of a metropolitan area that I'm in, you just have so much competition. And I'm kind of just browsing Instagram or other collector groups, and I'm seeing like the stuff that they're posting, right? Like even just sealed Super Marios or, posters, just cool items, right? That I'd love to see. And so I was thinking to myself, like, what can I do to kind of like have the same drive for collecting, but also not kind of have everything at my house that I was buying, right? Like, because my collection was getting, I just didn't want as much stuff. I didn't want to have like an attachment to everything that I would buy. So I just was like, why don't I just start consignment? Because my parents run a local consignment estate sale. And so, they help people
Yeah,
who are
I had
moving.
no idea that you already have like background in this. Had no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah. So I was like, why don't I just start that? I'll be able to see some cool items. I don't necessarily have to put out money for it, but and I still get the same high of collecting. So like the stuff that I've seen over the last 4 years is stuff that I would have never imagined I would see. That would take me forever to see if I even went hunting for it, right? So it's like that's essentially how the roots started. And it
Mm.
started with, very little people building trust over the next like 4 or 5 years. So
Before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the analytic stuff here, now that you're doing consignment, right? You're saying you're handling all this stuff, you don't want to have connection to everything. Has making it a job essentially, right? You're collecting, your hobby is now your main source of income. It is a job. Has it changed the way you interact with collecting? Has it changed the way you view things? Do you have less passion, more passion? You know what I mean? Has it changed the way you view stuff?
so yes and yeah. I mean, yeah. It's like some of it is like I agree with Henry in the sense of quality over quantity. And I mean, that's something that, like, even the guests that you've had on have talked about, right? Like consolidating into what you really want versus just having everything. Because, like, why do you have is like just the most random stuff like Miracle Piano sitting in your room somewhere that you're just never going to use, right? Like,
It's a good item,
it,
pal.
you know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure that there's people out there who would like love to have that stuff for whatever reason, right? Like, there's just different attachment reasons. And so I, even in 2020 and 2021, when I was downsizing my collection, because number one, obviously the prices were too good to pass up. So like I was going through like who can I sell some of this stuff to that like will enjoy it more than me, right? And who would cherish it more than I would because I didn't care about it that much.
Of
And I
course.
didn't really play, I just had it. So I downsized a lot of that. And so it has changed how I view collecting just because it's like I don't need to have everything. And in some ways, getting certain items that like, oh, it'd be cool to have this, even just housing it and listing it for somebody, it feels like I've owned it for a bit in a way, Like even though it's not mine. It's like it still passes through like, my hands and everything. And so I still get that same collecting feeling, but I don't have the obligation to like housing it forever or however long and taking up space somewhere.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
kind of what I was curious about there. If it basically gives you the same dopamine hit to
yeah.
handle it, like you know what I mean, whatever you're doing, as it would curating it into your own collection. Because once you acquire the item, like it's kind of the initial rush, the excitement of like, oh my
Yep.
god, there it is. But then once you put it in a box or put it on a shelf, that feeling dwindles.
Let's get down to meat and potatoes. Everyone wants to know how big is Rainier growing? Like you started in 2022, like is there growth? Are people coming in a hobby? Like I guess we could just even start like revenue wise. Like how's it looking?
So obviously since I'm still in business, yes, people are still coming in and still,
You're
buying
thriving
games.
apparently. So you're
Yeah,
But he's
yeah,
thriving.
wearing
So
ocarina jackets. Like the guy is, he's
Is-
got money
he's
over
there's
there.
doing
profits.
pretty
Yeah,
well, yeah.
profits.
But so 2022 was, I think like 300,000 somewhere in there, right? And
Yep.
that was pretty much just games in general. And
Yep.
then the next year was a 150% increase, so about like 800K. And then the next year was a 25% increase, so little around a million. And then this year on track to like 80 to 100% increase.
Like
So
this will be your
essentially,
biggest year selling graded video games. At consigning, I know you handle other stuff as well, but the main bulk of what you do is video games,
yeah,
graded video
video
games.
games make up since 2023 to now about 80% of sales. And that
Okay.
obviously that encompasses graded raw CIB. That's
Sure.
video games in whole. But I would say graded games of that 80% are still like
The vast majority.
the vast
Right.
majority of the pie chart and
Because
everything.
the
So
because of the value in general too.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, last year was 6,000 items sold
Hmm.
at an average of 130, and this
Okay.
year is half the amount sold, so about
Yeah.
3,000 at 350. So we've seen almost a
Wow.
double average in the last year.
Would you
Um,
say it's because the quality is higher, or is it just in general
There's the
like
market going
the
up
same
because every
stuff?
game.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
I mean, I would say that tail end of 2024, we definitely saw more quality starting to come out of the woodworks, right?
yeah.
Um, the reason sales like and what's kind of interesting is 2023, you could say was a lot of bulk. So a lot of your
Yeah,
like
yeah, that makes sense.
100
Yeah.
to $300 games that and I to me personally, even that amount on not like crazy sales, that's still pretty good for games, to be
Pretty
honest. Like I
good.
don't think there was a bulk
Yeah.
game that sold under $100 during that time, which
Hmm.
is pretty good
But
considering
it's
like,
good because there was a lot of junk slabs coming out in that time.
exactly. And I think I sold a there was a case pack of uh Sword and Shield. It was like 100 and like almost 200 9.88 plus pluses for a year. A
200
whole
of them? Oh my God.
every week for a year. And the average price was like 125 bucks. And that's with,
That's
people
good.
being able to see that there was two being listed pretty much like every week, right? And
Yeah.
so it was, I mean, even Breath of the Wild was averaging like 225 to 250 for a 9.8 A plus plus, like second, third print.
When you're
So at
selling
that time,
that many copies of these, like even Switch games, right? It's like, oh my god, how are you ever going to get rid of 200 copies of Sword and Shield? Is it like the same people buying 5 to 10 copies? Do you have new people every week? Like what?
it was new people every week. Like it was rarely is somebody buying the same game twice. Very rarely. It's a new
Hopium,
person.
hopium.
Yeah.
Get
And
the
so
gas
it's
mask
like,
on. Hopium.
but the thing is like if you tried that probably with like a case pack PS2 game, I don't know, isn't Odin Sphere like a case pack one? Or like
Yeah, but no one's gonna buy that
but yeah,
that
exactly,
game
that's what I
though.
mean. Like let's say you take a case pack PS2 game and you try the same formula with a Switch game, I don't think you won't have the same results. And I don't know how many people continue to buy that versus Switch. Like Switch kind of is an anomaly of
Yeah, that's most
modern
collectible
collecting,
video game
right?
system. Yeah.
Like yeah, those I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those games still kind of hold up at their prices
Yeah, I
regardless
mean,
of
you even
how it
saying
is.
that just already makes me it's like, wow, there are more people buying graded Switch games than I would probably even give it credit for.
No, yeah. I mean, even PS5, probably not. Xbox One S,
Yeah,
whatever
probably
the
not.
thing is,
No.
not really. Like Switch is crazy collectible. Like everybody wants it.
Speaking about
But
numbers, we got your revenues. How about like the number of bidders? Like if you can like if you have numbers or growth numbers, that'd be great.
Yeah, new bidders
so
every week, the same people over and over. What are you seeing out there? What's going
I
on?
don't have the exact number of new bidders, bidding on every item,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately.
That
But
makes sense.
in terms of buying,
Yeah.
80%, 80 to 83% of all people buying games or buying items on my store are new buyers. So
Every
less
week.
than every week. Or as I
Really?
should sorry, I should say as of now, like that have made up these last 6 months. Sorry. These last six
Okay,
months,
6 months.
80%. And then
That's
even
even big.
last
That's still
year,
pretty big.
That
it
seems
was like
crazy.
82% was new buyers and 13% or whatever was
Repeat.
repeat. So
Hmm.
essentially, repeat buyers are going to make up for 12 to 15% of all sales.
And you're not just selling Switch games over and over again. You
No, no,
have
no.
some pretty big games too that you're
Yeah, this
selling.
is like
Yeah.
anything from NES, or I should say, Atari, to the new system
Yeah.
Switch and everything like that. So
In
yeah,
my head, it's living in a bubble. I get it. Like we have our own echo chamber and stuff, but you'd swear it's just the same 50 people in Discord buying, selling, trading amongst each other. So if you were to say 80% new, like, it's just where are they? Where are they? It's crazy.
so
They're not on
that
Heritage. It seems like they're not
Well,
on
I did,
Heritage.
but like I don't even
well,
think these people are in Facebook groups. Like, who are they on Instagram? Like, it feels like there's a huge like missing portion of just people in this hobby. In that case, would you have first
so
time buyers? Like, are there patterns? Are they purchasing like something under $100 just to try it out? Are they like, can you get any data like that as to where first people are striking?
so I was looking through kind of like averages of kind of like the last 90 days and seeing, those totals. And basically it falls in the price that you said at the very beginning of like $50 if an item sells for 50 to like 2 to 2.5K. So like there are first time buyers at a higher price point, but it's a smaller percentage purely because that's the way it is with every collectible. You move from pool to pool, like higher pool, your your buying pool is going to shrink. It's the same thing with cards. It's the same thing with comics. Not everybody's going to be shilling out 30, 40K for Charizard, or you know whatever comic is 30, 40K now. So it's definitely in the 0 to or 50 to 2K price point is where most of
It
them
it
are.
makes perfect sense. That is where most people interact.
And it's not really like, even there isn't even a specific console or system. It's basically
Everything.
what, yeah, like, I
Yeah.
mean, there's first time
Mostly
buyers. I would say
USA.
I should say it's more on PS2, Xbox, N64. I see a lot on N64 actually. Um, and
People our
obviously
age are
Switch.
starting to get some money.
No, yeah. And I mean, think of this: DS came out in 2004. So DS games were, we're at the 20-year mark. So
I
people
can't
with
believe DS
DS.
is '04. It feels way
So
later.
yeah, I looked it up yesterday too because I was double checking. And Game Boy Advance came out in like 2001, 2002. The SP came
Mhm.
out. No, yeah, 2001. The SP came out in 2003, and then the DS came out right after that. Like the
Yeah,
bulky version of the DS. And then it was like, the slimmer DS Lites, which were later like 2005, 2006 and stuff.
yeah. My younger
So,
brothers had the bulky DSs.
yeah.
We had those in the house. They were great.
So we're up on like the 20-year mark. And so those kids are going to be making money. And, we might see DS. And I mean, we already are seeing some DS games sell
Potato was
pretty
just
well.
too early, man. Potato was just 5 years too
But
early.
there
Dang.
was a first print Pokemon Troze 9.8 plus plus that sold for like almost $900 last past week. So like obviously it's Pokemon. It breaks the barriers of everything else because Pokemon is Pokemon, right? But
Yeah,
like Chrono Trigger DS still sells pretty well. Zelda Phantom
Pokemon
Hourglass.
Troze too is like that's low key, man. That is
No,
like
yeah. It's not a well-known game. Even what is it? Pokemon Rumble but I think that's 3DS and Pokemon Dash. That's the other one.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
early launch
Dash, yeah.
DS. Yeah, is pretty rare. And I think I've sold one of those for that somebody I can sign. But
Well,
yeah,
I guess
it's
I should ask then. You're talking about DS here. You sell games for every single console. What opportunities or surprises do you see in selling this many games? Stuff that sells really well, or like you're saying with DS here, is that where opportunity lies?
so given the landscape over the last 2 years, it's hard to say that like one console is worth picking up because to me, there is a lot of opportunity in various consoles, to be honest. Like even you could make the argument that even Switch, because the Switch has been out now almost 10 years. Like
True.
they will throw an anniversary for the Switch next year. Like say which ironically is the same year as the Pokemon 30th anniversary next year. So like something's gonna happen probably. And it's like people there's a lot of opportunity in a lot of consoles. Like N64, I think is still slept on. Game Boy, I think is very slept on considering it's one of the largest handhelds. Like
Is
that,
that what you were saying,
sales.
Henry? Got to get your Game Boy
Yeah,
games?
it's rare, man. It's hard to get them, and the Germans love them. So
But
sell them in
the
Germany.
game right now that I honestly do not understand, given its prominence in games and how
Celeste, Celeste,
contest.
right? It's gotta be Celeste. No way it's
Unfortunately, I can't
350.
say Celeste. I will say maybe at some point, if the Celeste fever
Okay,
catches on. But
okay,
like the Tetris World Championship, like championship stuff that happens still. Like
yeah.
I'm surprised Tetris is not up there as I would think it should be, given like, dude, it has a crazy backstory. That
Yeah,
backstory for Tetris is insane. The
but the
game is
Game Boy
still
games
played.
doesn't come up though. That's
Well,
why.
no, I mean not
They're
just
super
Game Boy. I'm
rare.
talking about just in general, like Tetris, like even on the NES, like obviously the Tengen one is the one to have, like that will always have some value to it, right? But like Tetris in general is just as much of a gaming icon in a way. Why
Yeah.
that's a very bold statement to say as much as like Super Mario Bros. And Zelda, but you know
The
what I mean. It's up
Tetranemo
there.
is like that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
number
yeah.
It's
one.
It's up
yeah.
there. I get that it's more readily available. I get all that, but like if you want to think of things not just short term, but like 3, 4 years, right? Like we're growing at a steady pace. One thing that I'm also kind of seeing is like if you take Zelda OOT, right? Like 200 plus copies graded across, let's say collector's edition, all grades, but like the top percent is 10 of 9.6 to 9.8 and at 110, like there's 10 to 12 copies. That's insanely low. But you can get a 9.6 A plus
It
plus
is.
OOT for like 6K, 7K, maybe a little bit more now. If or A plus plus is going to run you a little bit more, but like 9.6 grade, you can get from 5 to 8K, right? Like that to me seems low considering the condition premium. But also like we're coming off 2021 where that game was selling for like, 50, 60 grand, even in like 9.6 and 9.8 was like what 100K or something.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I
yeah,
feel
like
like with
I get
your
that.
metrics and what you see, you sound pretty bullish overall. Is there merit then? Like you're talking about the 9.68 plus plus, right? Just to keep it
Yeah,
towards the lower end of the market, is there merit then to someone going out of their way right now to pick up, say, a 7.0 A plus?
I think in general, main IPs of strong games that still have influence are worthwhile picking up, even if the condition may not be a massive premium. Purely because as the top end rises, so will the bottom, right? We've seen that
Yeah.
with cards, we've seen that with comics, we've seen that with like everything else. And it's an affordability thing. Like, let's say you buy 7.5A for $500. I know that's not even really realistic, but like, let's just say, right, for argument's sake, that game over the next 2 years, it will be a slow roll, but your bottom line is $500 on it, regardless of like the next year, right? It's not like the only thing that's going to stop these games and like collectible markets is a nuclear fallout from like happening. It's not like you're going to wake up the next day and the market's going to die. You know,
That
like,
sounds super bullish to me, man.
To
I
the
thought
moon,
games are
man! To
dead.
the
I mean,
I
like,
thought
even
moon!
graded games were dead.
if you look at like, and this is just because I've been in markets for 15 plus years and seeing so many different things, like seeing where Pokemon was and now, like everybody's like, well, that's just gonna die off. And like it was a dead IP from like
Was.
2003 to 2012, essentially. Like it was a dead IP. Like the games were holding it up, but they were thinking about getting rid of cards, right? Like just stop producing them, and they almost did. And like people started coming back in X and Y, and then it took off, and it's not going to go back to where it was. And games are not going to go back to where it was, regardless of what the catalyst was that set it off. You know, Gray Cart NWC, you're not going to be able to buy for 8K in 2008. It's going to be a floor of $50,000, maybe less, depending on condition or if somebody's really just trying to sell one, right? Like the market is not going to go backwards. It may be, it's corrected itself. We've seen over the last, few months, games just continue to steadily go up and hit like continuous like prices. So like 9.6 A plus silver, you can get for 3 to 4K because there's comps that have shown that. Even NWC grade cart at the time in 2024, when 2023, when 3.4 came out, the floor was 50 to 70K. Like it's a good thing when you have games come out consistently to set that market price, because then it shows people like this isn't a bubble. This isn't, all hell's not breaking loose for it and everything like that. So
So we
yeah,
talked,
it's
like I asked Henry there last week then, do you think the expansion of new sealed games hitting the market is outpacing the actual growth of participants in the market?
um it's tough because it depends on what is being introduced.
Okay.
Like, do I think the case pack of Mario Super Smash Brothers that happened, in like end of 2024?
Yeah.
I mean, like, do I think that influenced prices? Maybe, but like 2024 was also kind of a weird year where the footing was still trying to be found. Like prices were higher than 2023, but they weren't like crazy.
You sold a
And
9.6 A plus plus for like what, 18K, something like that?
15, I think it was like 15, 16,
15. Yeah.
16,050, I think is
That
what
might be
the
the
ending
lowest
price
price we
was.
like see on that
That
in
was that was the lowest.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
mean, I sold, like a 9.6 A plus plus Zelda for nearly 2K. I sold a 9.8 plus plus Majora's Mask collector's edition for 9K, which I'm gonna regret probably because again, like that game and 9.8 plus plus, it's not like you can just get it. Like it's not always out there. So it's a tough thing when you have new supply because it's game dependent.
when you have new people consign with you, right? Is it like one or two games? Do a lot of people have a ton of, PS2, Xbox factory sealed stuff? Like it is because in my perception, people don't, right? Most people don't have a lot of factory sealed games that they're sitting on, but you actually see people who come to you for consignment. have you seen more people with more games than you would otherwise expect if you weren't doing this consignment type of thing?
Oh yeah, 100%. So
Interesting.
to the point of when before I was in this business and stuff, and I was looking at the hobby, you know, most places you assume that like, oh, it's all on SGC or high end or in SAC. But being in this hobby, working with different people, getting messages from people, you understand that there is a lot more people outside of
Yeah.
Facebook groups and Discord that aren't really sharing on Instagram their collections for many reasons. And I mean, even I was watching a Mizkif stream when they were doing the Game of Thrones thing. Like one of the curators there was saying, like, there's people who will buy up a ton of these and they'll just throw them in their basement or whatever, like some collection, and the people will never see them again. Like there's people like that in this hobby as well. Like they collect because they want to collect something and they don't really want to show it off, and they may not interact with a ton of people in the hobby. So like there is a lot more people outside the scope of just Facebook groups and Discord
And
and stuff like
those
that
individual
participating.
people have more sealed games than you would otherwise anticipate.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean even overseas, right? Like we see a ton in like Germany and
Mm.
UK and stuff like that. Australia, I know, also has a big scene for US games. You see it in like Mexico as well. So it's and obviously like technically Canada as well, but
Is that a call
it's
for caution? Like you say this, right? And to me, it's like, oh man, like how much are you seeing out there that these people have? Is it
I don't
like
think
ugh?
so, because there's so many games, like PS2 libraries, 2K, Wii library is huge, Wii U library, even though it's kind of small, is pretty big. Like these libraries are huge. There's a
You
lot of
don't see
games that
heavy
people have.
concentration
No, no, no,
on
no,
certain.
no. It's a wide variety of stuff. Even like I know in Europe, like Game Boy collecting is a huge thing, right? So you're gonna find a lot of the heavy stuff over there, and maybe a variety of, consolidation of some titles in Europe compared to like US. But I don't really view it as concern, purely because I think if things continue on the trajectory that they're on, which they should, the market will outweigh the supply, so that even then it won't matter.
Hmm.
It takes, obviously there can be some small catalysts that just take the market back to like 2021.
Is your
So
Yeah.
confidence rising, Henry? Is this the?
No, not really. I think things are still there. I have to have low expectations, but
But I
yeah.
personally like, the thing is I'm sure there's streamers and there's celebrities and other people that are participating in the hobby and buying stuff. Just you won't know. Like there is a lot more people who are buying, and they just aren't sharing it, and but they are
And
participating in the
you've seen
hobby.
them. And you've seen them
Yeah, in a way,
from
yeah.
your
I mean,
stuff.
like
Yeah.
obviously we've seen like Mizkif. Mizkif
Yeah.
has like is very open
Yeah.
about his, and I know like just
Yeah.
from that influence, he's probably influenced some other streamers to maybe get into it, or even his chat and stuff, right? Like
Have you seen any streamers buy from you, or like people that
Yeah. Do you have
that people would
celebrities or
know
anything?
about? Yeah. You don't
not
have to share the names, but
not
or you could.
Good.
Or you could.
in for confidentiality reasons. We'll keep it like we'll
Yeah,
keep
of
it on the down
course.
low. No, no, no,
Of
yeah.
course.
But
But
I
do
mean,
you
like
have? Is it a yes or a no?
it's like, yeah, yeah. I mean,
D-listers
okay. I'm
buying.
not, well, I'm
Okay.
not gonna say like top A-lister stuff, right? Like
Okay, okay,
the crazy
okay,
thing. We
okay.
won't say like that. It's not like Brad Pitt's
Okay.
buying like or like Leonardo
Brad
DiCaprio's trying to
Pitt.
buy his Game
That's
Boy
who
back
we
from
needed. We
Titanic,
needed
right?
Brad
Like,
Pitt.
yeah, like, but definitely there's more notable people who are participating. I mean,
Okay.
even what was it? Like Nick Cage was buying comic books for a long time before somebody,
It's true.
stole his stuff. Like
It's true.
so yeah, I definitely think
Okay.
too, a lot of people that left during that time are slowly making their way back in,
Okay. So you see that
because
as well.
confidence is rising in terms of, it's not like games died, right? Like
It's
it's
like you
not
said,
like during that time.
we keep having them sell stability, floors, comps.
Yeah.
All of this has to exist for someone to actually believe that if they're going to park $2,000, $500 into something, like there's another person that exists who might want to purchase it in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need that. We needed that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, still right now, the same gimmick is, first to market gets you the
Yep.
most money. And then second,
That's true.
third copies that come out, maybe a little bit less. But for the most part, the floor is whatever the second or third copy sets at.
That
Right?
that first to market thing does still worry me a lot.
Yeah.
Just because it shows the thinness, the lack of, in my opinion, the lack of participation amongst people where you don't have, to your own statistics, a lot of people buying the same graded game again and again. We don't have that like floor setters, if you want to call them.
No, yeah, it depends on the game too, because it's about participation, right? Like, say you have four people bidding on the same game, one person gets their win, and the next game comes up, then you're down to three, right?
Yep.
Like, and vice versa. There may be one person that will replace them, but like, obviously, in comparison, where like, let's say 10 people leave cards, you'll have 20 people make up the spot, like that enter the hobby, right? Like, the ratio is definitely smaller. 100%, like that's just true. But like as time goes on, I think it will change, and that more people are being more cautious of what they're buying as well. It's
That
it's
they should
quality over
be.
quantity, consolidating, select titles, select grades. Now is the reason is just now is the perfect time, dude. Everything is affordable. You're not trying to
That's what
buy
I was gonna
OOT.
say.
Like for instance, you never thought you'd be able to afford Super Mario World, and you got one. But
I
like,
know.
was it a crazy grade? But you got one. But like OOT, even in 9.6, was selling for like 20 grand.
No, I need to upgrade
You
my
know what I
Ocarina of
mean?
Time. Like mine
Yeah,
is
like
notoriously a bad copy. I need to upgrade. While it's
yeah,
like,
now is the perfect time to do that. I remember looking at um cards a while back, thinking, why are these prices so low? For instance, like the Umbreon from X and Y, some set or whatever, it was like PSA 10 was like $500. I'm like, this is a card everybody wants. Why is it so cheap? And now it's like 1.5K. Obviously, they're having a boom, but like it's the same feeling that I get with games. Why is 9.8 in this game selling for 3-4 grand? That's a super popular title that everybody wants, right? Like
I
it's
think we poisoned his mind. He believes in the a grade premium, man. We
he
poisoned
might
his
believe more
mind.
than us, man.
I
I
I
got
know.
this
the
good.
thing
It's,
This
is
is
I don't
good.
follow my gut enough on a lot of stuff because like even Evolving Skies was like I should buy a freaking crap ton of this, dude. It's gonna be a crazy set. It's like one of the best modern sets in history, and now it's like 2K for a booster box, and I didn't buy any, and I'm kicking myself, right? Like the same feeling. That's why I am kind of, I wouldn't say in a rush or feel like FOMO'd into buying one, but I do
sure.
want to add like a Mario Bros. Zelda copy to my collection to have maybe a couple
You
copies
got
like
another.
that.
You
Like,
got another guy who wants
You don't.
SCP-1,
Yeah,
man.
you don't want
I'm gonna be
that.
competing
It's
with you
over.
now.
You
It's
don't want
over.
that.
It's
That's a
over.
bad title.
But there's
Really
there's a couple
quick, what
titles.
do you think is graded CIBs as well? You handle those. You auction a ton of them. What's CIB up to right now? Should it be reserved for the nicest copies? Is there opportunity on mid to high?
Well, yeah, it's funny you asked that considering I just made a post yesterday about the Secret of Mana that just sold, asking the exact same question. But
What was it? Sorry, I didn't
it
see
was the
it.
same thing of I made the post for that Secret of Mana like 9.4 that sold for like 1,500, right?
Okay.
Um, and I asked the same question: is like CIB grading, is are we seeing like the beginning, or is this kind of like the top of CIB? And I think CIB grading still also has some legs on it. Like, would I grade an everyday beat up box of a random title? Probably not. But like, I sold an FF7 CIB. I think it was a 8.5, if I remember correctly, for like 180, which doesn't sound like a lot, but
It is.
for like well I mean like in relative, like if you compare it to something else, right, like it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is also a lot. Like it's for that kind of condition um of that game, and obviously it's Final Fantasy 7, so like it's gonna have buyers to it. But I definitely think CIB is worthwhile to grade still now, especially if you're trying to chase the 9.8 sets, and CGC is giving out 9.9s and even 10s on some stuff. So, you have that chase. But like people are gonna buy because they'll take the 9.8 box, marry it with a
When
9.6
you
cart,
say the
so
nine
on and
four
so forth.
Secret of Mana, right, and you talk about it still having legs, $1,500 for that. Like, what do you think?
I
Cheap?
I mean,
Good?
I think it's a solid price, like I think it would be probably market. I don't think it's like I don't think it's super high. I don't think it's
Should
super
it be
low.
higher?
At some point, yes, because like I view it's like sealed supply. Will the supply of mint boxes always be around? And there are people who are grading mint stuff that aren't selling. So like the next Secret of Mana that may come up is like an 8.0, 8.5. And so people that want a CIB of that game may pay $1,000 for it,
I think it was when
regardless of
we
what the
had
9.4
Tyler
comp
on
is.
that he was
Yeah.
saying like you walk into a random game store and the condition of every SNES box is junk. Like
No, yeah.
finding nice condition stuff is already in 2025 very difficult.
Yeah. And we're seeing like, I do auctions on, mint stuff that sells way above. I was selling Pokemon Emerald boxes that were mint for $1,200 and the average price on price charting was 600. Like people pay up for condition
They
and
should.
it's a point. Like I sold in 2024 in November, I sold a 9.4 um Mega Man X3. Now obviously it's a heavy title, like,
Yeah.
so it has that going for it, but it was 4K for a
For
CIB
CIB.
9.4 CIB. And then the X2 was like 2K or 3K, and then there was a 9.4 Mario 64 that I think did 3.3K. That was a CIB as well. Like people will
That's
pay up
big.
for the mint stuff. And like, I mean,
I
that's a nine thing too is like a 9.4 CIB though at 3K is what, like a 8.0 Mario 64 sealed, like A plus
Somewhere in
ish.
there.
Yeah.
somewhere in
Somewhere
there.
around there.
Like,
Yeah.
Might be a
but you're,
7.5. Somewhere in there.
I think it comes down to preference. Like, would you rather look at the 9.4 number even without the seal grade or look at the 8.0 number with like an A grade or A plus? Like it's a good placeholder, mint placeholder for potential higher grade sealed copy if you want to work with like placeholders. I know you're not big into placeholders though, Henry.
Depends.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not a 5.5. I think mint CIBs like 9.4s and above are great. I
Yeah.
think they present really nice and it's a fraction of the price of sealed. But yeah, I mean, I wonder if there are new buyers that are buying like those type of games, or is it just the same repeat CIB
It
buyers?
is it is
Because
new
we know
buyers. Like
that's there are new buyers. Okay.
new buyers are buying like CIB and sealed.
Okay.
And I mean like yeah, so it's on both sides of the pendulum. So
I will keep beating my drum that like your average person just does not realize the importance of like conditional nuance with CIB stuff. Like our hobby is still super immature in that sense. Your
no, yeah.
average collector in this space, your average video game enthusiast, doesn't understand or it just I don't know, it doesn't translate. Where it's like, hey, that box is mint, so it's worth 2 to 3 times whatever the Holy Bible price chart says. That
Yeah.
is still just not a thing in this hobby, and until the general knowledge catches up, I think that you maybe don't need to race out to purchase your 9.4s right now. I get it. If you're searching 9.6, 9.8, you're going to have to pay whatever you pay. But you can put together 9.0, 9.2, maybe 9.4 decently well still if you are willing to put the time into hunting. They're still out there.
Yep.
But if
No, yeah.
you know what I mean? If you push it, you can get them. It sounds like I was going to ask here, what could we do or something to increase participation in the graded game space? If you have any ideas or notions of what might grow the space, I was also going to ask you have any fear about being mainly a graded game seller, but by how you sound, it sounds like you're pretty bullish on that.
Um, I think in terms of growing, it's just like most other collectible group. Like the hardest thing is shows and events. Like we're seeing some great stuff. Like somebody just posted in the Discord some great stuff that they saw at like an event in SoCal or whatever, right? But it's still not widely accepted. People still are probably, saying Reddit things like in their head as they walk by and see it versus Collecticon where graded cards are just the norm, right? Like, but people can carry that around a lot easier compared to graded games, obviously. But
Yeah.
like shops, events, booths, all that stuff where people just aren't afraid to show that stuff out. But then also like people got to stop asking 2021 prices for stuff. I get if you paid 5K for a game and it's hard for you to like take a loss at 50%, but if it's me, just take the loss and use the money for something else. Like it's better to have your money being used towards something rather than sitting around hoping for 5 to 10 years. Now, obviously, if you can wait it out, like I understand it, but like at that point,
Bag
move on and
holding
give it to
isn't.
somebody.
Yeah, bag holding isn't always a good thing in any
No,
scenario, and it strips away supply when people aren't willing to let go of it.
it does. And I mean, I think it moves people, it like really turns people off if like they want a red and an 8.0, even Sandshrew, and somebody's asking 10K
Yep.
because they paid 7K for it in 2021 or even, whatever the freaking price was that was too high. And it's like, dude, we can't keep doing this. Like people are going to constantly think that the barrier for entry in games is a minimum of like 8 grand starting, when in reality it's a lot lower than that. I think it's hard too because we still don't have, aside from your main popular games, there still isn't a lot of data for even like CIB 7.5s, 8.0s.
Well, no one's grading them still. It just that's why I was
Well,
wondering, if there's merit there.
I would say that there is, but one thing that I've noticed, so there's a formula that is followed with like cards and comics, right? If a 9.8 or a 10 sells for 5 grand, then a 9 is going to be like 1,900, right? For like cards,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. Games, 9.8 sells for 10, 9.6 will sell for 3K, 4K, maybe if it's same A plus plus seal, right? So you have that disparity, which makes
More
sense.
than that, I think. More than that.
Well, I mean,
I don't think the
okay, let's say two
multiples
two to
are
three
that
K.
high.
Let's say 2 to
Yeah.
3K, right?
Okay.
But then you get into 9.0 to 9.4, they will all sell for 1 to 2K.
Yeah.
Regardless of what, like from a formula standpoint, a 9.4 then should fall into a certain price point, 9.2 certain price point, 9.0 certain price point, so on and so forth. But like I've auctioned Pokemon Pinball 9.0 to 9.4 and they've all over the same price. So it's like, how do you gauge price on some of these like 9.0 to 9.2 when like let's say 9.2 sells for 1,500 but a 9.0 sells for 13? So you would assume then that by that same formula 9.2 should be 2 grand, 2.3, whatever you want to find the
When you
formula
say
at.
this,
But
do you mean it in a sense that this pricing discrepancy makes it difficult for people to come in, analyze, and know what they're doing?
I think that, as well as what people should sell certain items at, because at this point, for outside of games that have stability in terms of their pricing and consistency, like Super Mario 64 or Mario Bros. Or Zelda, so on and so forth, it's kind of a guessing game because they should follow the same formula. 9.0 to 9.2 should not be relatively $100 difference.
Yeah.
Like
I
it,
think it's just the market's too thin, like once someone buys it and he falls off, then it's just one less buyer in a small pool.
no, yeah, it definitely is. But I think there's also, it's an education thing as
That's
well.
that's fair. Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with like people equate games to a money grab. But dude, the reason I grade stuff is not for a number or even for monetary value all the time. It's more authentication. What I get from that is added on to it, right?
Yeah.
And then it's also like the historical significance or nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
That's more of why I'm into collectibles, why I've always been into it, is the historical aspect. I've just been a history guy for the longest period of time. And I think the narrative will slowly start to change, hopefully, over the next, few years from just what a scam,
Well,
all these
hey, Jobs is
collusions.
bankrupt. I don't know if you heard that, but he's
But hey,
bankrupt,
he
and
just put out a YouTube video
yeah, I
on
know he
Dr.
needs to
Lupo
make the
cheating
money
in a
back. I
chess
think
game, dude.
people realize that he just says stuff off the cuff. But anyway, like maybe you can do some of the education because I know you have a pretty big IG following too. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's something you can
Time for you
look
to get your
like
face
more
on camera.
towards.
Like this is
That
the
Or
big
not
coming
that's
out
something.
necessarily
party.
even face on camera, but like on IG posts, like you do a lot of IG posts and all that stuff. So maybe you can
That's
do
something
more
I
of
try
like
to
a
do with like
educational
TikTok.
series.
That's something I
Okay.
try to do with TikTok is like,
Yeah.
show off, try and show off importance or significance or even like Final Fantasy VII has all these people going for it. Ratchet and Crank has like a big fan base, but like the prices right now don't equate to what everybody's talking about. Like Gears of
Yeah,
War, dude,
it's worth
everybody loves that
nothing.
game and talks about
Yeah,
that game. And it's like you can get
it's
a 9.8
nothing.
now, first print for like a grand or less. And that game was selling for 15K at the top. Like,
Yeah,
I get the drop, but it's like right now, it's just a steady climb, and I understand like it makes my mind hurt, but also I understand at the same time like why it's not there yet, and that's because it's
just
like
takes time.
you're thinking
Yeah,
years
I
ahead.
think it
But
just takes time.
and that's the other thing is I think Instagram post, YouTube, like more people just need to get over this like fear of being canceled and losing followers on YouTube, or people not watching their stuff because they post a WATA game or
We need more
CGC. Like,
miskiffs. We need more miskiffs.
I mean, VGA,
Exposure therapy.
VGA
Exposure.
has VGA may have their stuff as well, but like obviously within the community, they're very still like highly regarded in terms of
Yeah.
everything. So like
Mm.
I definitely think we need to find a happy medium in terms of kind of getting people back in and
Yeah.
being okay with stuff again.
Well, yeah, thanks again for coming on again, Monty. But we know you collect your own stuff, and let's say like your house is on fire. But let's assume that all your consignments are okay, right? Like especially your big big item
Right.
consignments. But you're from your personal collection. If you have like one or two items you'd want to save from your house fire, what would it be?
So one of them would actually be
The jacket, of course.
maybe like it's up
Maybe the
there,
jacket. The
but
jacket can burn.
this
Ooh.
is one of the coolest and also one of the most unique items. It's just
Oh,
a
that's cool.
OOT Zelda like standee. It's insanely rare. I'm kind of surprised I even got it at the time. It was like perfect storm situation.
Oh,
And
tell the
then
story. Where'd you get it from?
it was actually a Facebook group. Some guy, I was gonna buy a different one, but then he worked a deal with another guy who had one, and then I just bought his undercopy. So like it was perfect.
Hey?
Perfect storm was just buying his undercopy basically, which
Yeah, I've
honestly
never seen. Is that one a counter display or does it like stand on its
no.
own?
So
What does
it's
you
like a pin. It's a pin. Like it would use like because it's got like holes and stuff at the top and stuff like that. So it was like
Oh, you
pinned to
pin it
wall
on
and
a
everything.
wall.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
pin it
yeah.
on a
Yeah.
wall.
But
Okay.
like
The Mario 2 here has built-in like pin spots where that's
yeah,
how
yeah,
it's
yeah.
hung as well. Is you
To my knowledge, from when I was talking with him, like the I people aren't sure if it's a US thing really, to be honest. Like they've mainly seen it coming out of like France. So it might be like dude, in the advertisement for video games, like Europe got all the cool stuff. US kind of didn't really get like a ton of cool things, to be honest. Like most of the cool stuff for video game advertisements come from like Australia and EU in general.
Mm.
But like so I think it's to the knowledge of some people, it's a EU like France super limited and kind of like rare and hard to find. So it's one of the items I would take. And then the second one, honestly, it's between my Maximo sword that I bought from a ex Capcom employee. Like it's a full metal sword. Um,
like
that they gave
Maximo
out.
being the protagonist of Ghouls and Ghosts.
No, the
Yes.
PS2 game, right? Or
So
is
the
it the
PS2
PS2
game as
game?
But
well.
that
So like
is
Ghost to Glory.
Yeah.
like I think that is
Yeah.
Maximo. Like that's the
Yeah.
character, is it
Yeah.
not?
So like it's a full wooden box, and it came with like this figure
Hmm.
that they gave out. So they gave this to employees who helped work on the game, as a gift. And this is why like a lot of the 90s stuff is so cool because they got really cool things. Or the companies went out above and beyond. But it's a full-fledged sword, dude.
Oh,
Like
wow. Is it heavy?
it's heavy. Like
Wow. Full
That's
steel.
crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome.
let me see if I'm trying to like get it, but like
Yeah, don't stab anyone, man.
I'm not going to go through, but like it's a full blade, full like everything.
Wow.
It's actually pretty insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
But yeah, and then I also have I might take my VGA 90 Poke Park instead, to be honest.
Yeah, Pokey Park.
The
Dude, that
VGA 90
thing,
20K.
Pokey
Hold
Park.
on for the
that dude, that
20K.
thing's I'm pretty sure it's still a pop one. like top pop for that thing. I was not expecting a 90 when I sent it in.
Are
But
advertisements and like this like employee stuff, is this where you've really focused your collecting now?
um yes and no. I mean, I went through a really big stage during 2023 because everything was on the downfall, like
Yep.
sloped down compared to everything else. So it was like people started selling a bunch of things, and I hadn't really bought a lot for the last 2 years. So I was just kind of like sitting on some cash, and I was like, this stuff is sick. Like the poster back there, it's rare, it's unique. It kind of helped from a video game aspect because I was still waiting for games to decide if I wanted to like, buy in at certain price points or what I was wanting. But so it kind of helped fill a void of collecting.
Fill the
So I just
void,
yeah.
the emptiness in your life.
Yeah. But like they just all came up at the right time, basically. So
Mm.
I kind of went maybe a little overboard buying like posters and signs. I got like a Jack 2 poster over here, like a plexi sign and stuff like that.
I
So
mean, that stuff's amazing, and like you said, it's rare, it's unique, and it's games are mass printed. A lot of that stuff is extremely limited in quantity,
yeah.
especially now that we're like 20, 30 years later. I've never seen that sword before. I've never even like never
I,
knew it existed.
I didn't even know it existed until he literally made a post on Facebook and I reached out to him. And I wasn't when he said in the photos, obviously things look smaller. So when I met him and he was like, "Oh yeah, here you go," and it's literally like a 25-inch wooden box with this steel sword inside. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm taking it. Like, I can't back out now.
Yeah, gotta buy
but
it.
uh, but yeah, so it's fun. It's been a great thing. It's like games, rare games, definitely limited supply. Kind of makes it a little bit more special having. But
That's so sick, man. So sick. It
yeah,
sounds like overall, like we have nothing to worry about. The hobby is in great spot, great expansion,
yeah,
still growing. So it was awesome to hear your takes on it. And yeah, just more about what the lower market's going on right now. And again, I'd love to hear from you guys as well watching. Like, what do you see on eBay? Are you fighting with a lot of people? Do you think you're bidding against the same people? Do you ever check the bidding logs to see if you are actually bidding against the same people? Let us know down below. And once again, Nathan, I was going to call you Monty. I'm like totally Discord brained. Thanks again, Nathan, for coming on. And this was awesome, man.
yep. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
See you.